Okay, Paul, money.
Thank you. If I can offer the board three for the price of one today, I've got three items really to subsume within the finance report. You don't often get that much value from a finance director, but there you go. Try it for luck.
We'll judge that in a minute.
The first one is not. I can't find a direct link to finance with it, but I have been asked to bring it to the board anyway. So let me deal with that, which is a procedural matter. Members of the board will be aware that as part of the creation of NHS Improvement, the patient safety function that we currently perform in large measure is transferring to NHSI, and we've taken urgent action to kick that off in legal form between these two meetings in order to keep the timetable flowing through to the 1st of April. The urgent action carried out by the Chair, Chief Executive and two of the non-executive directors. So my purpose in bringing this to the board is merely to let you know that that has happened and to invite you to note it. Essentially, the reason that the board is involved in this is that this is transferring a legal function of NHS England by agreement with NHS Improvement in the legal form of the Trust Development Authority. It's a transfer of that legal responsibility, and clearly a measure which does that sort of thing needs to be with the sanction of the board. So I'm sure there are many around the table who can tell you all the details of that if you are excited by knowing the legal details of it, but for now I'd ask you just to note it, and I'll move on to finance.
Just before you do, is there any questions? That is a transfer, not a delegation.
It is absolutely clearly so, a transfer of a legal function in agreement with the DH, I should have said, who clearly needs to agree all of these sorts of things.
From a clinical perspective, fine. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Can I say, sorry?
No, just to underline what Paul said, I think it will be the Department of Health that will be, through the Secretary of State, directing the Trust Development Authority to exercise 13R duty, and they'll be producing legal regulations to that effect. So this is the Department of Health in the driving seat on this.
Right. Okay, so from our perspective, though, we're happy to note this. Thank you.
Okay, so turning to my more conventional slot, if there is such a thing, the month 9 finances that you have in front of you. I'll keep it brief this month because I, for once, stole my own thunder last time by telling you what I was going to tell you this month. It's normally the Chief Executive that steals my thunder before I get to it, but I thought I'd get in first last month. Also, many colleagues around this table will have spent a happy few minutes this morning at the Commissioning Committee, which has now taken over the oversight of financial delivery in year and indeed financial planning from the Investment Committee. So a number of us have spent this morning going through this in rather more detail anyway. So for now I'll restrict myself to just pointing out a few of the more significant movements between month 8 and month 9. You might care to have Appendix A in front of you to refer to. In there you'll see that the net overspend on CCGs has reduced from 51 million last month to 22 million this month, which is frankly pretty much a point landing for a multi-billion pound, indeed close to 60 billion pound sector of commissioning. This is largely, the improvement is largely due to 18 additional CCGs in the context of the month 9 stocktake, which I talked to you about last time, identifying upsides, which brings the total of CCGs reporting positive variances this year to 35, and that's about an 85 million positive variance from those 35 CCGs, predominantly located in the north and in London. At the other end of the spectrum, we've got 27 CCGs doing worse than plan, with a total overspend between them of 121 million. I'm pleased to say that number hasn't grown significantly through the stocktake, so that's at least a good sign. Second good sign is that the regional specialised commissioning position hasn't changed materially between the months. On the other hand, we do have to recognise, I'm afraid, now a higher overspend on the Cancer Drugs Fund than was assumed at month 8. We now think the overspend in the forecast is 100 million, and I have to tell you there is probably a further risk against that of between 20 and 40 million, which I'll be able to confirm when we talk next time. If all of that came to pass, we could have spending on the Cancer Drugs Fund this year of anything up to about 480 million against the budget of 340 million, which clearly is a further emphasis that needs to be put on the discussion that we had earlier this afternoon, because that level of overspend on an already increased fund is clearly not sustainable going forward. And finally, underspends in other areas of direct commissioning, central programme costs, and our old friend, the legacy continuing healthcare settlements, have all increased. So the underspends have increased. That's good news, as I indicated they would in my presentation last month. There's no significant new news there. So overall, what you have in front of you is a core forecast of 295 million underspend in this year, with likely upsides taking that further, as I point out in the report in the latter part of it, which would take it just over the 400 million line, in line with the projection which I shared with you, if you recall it, last time at this meeting. I would repeat my caveat, which I made last time, that within that 400 million there are significant once-off benefits from the central programme cost, underspends, and the historic continuing healthcare settlements in particular, which will simply not be available to us next year because we've obviously adjusted those budgets going forward, and part of our strategy for allocations in 16-17 was to reduce the amount that we spend on our central programmes in order to maximise the amount that's available for a combination of frontline services and transformation. So underspends this year, but don't read too much into availability for next year. But however, they do enable us for now to make a bigger and frankly much needed contribution to an overall health sector position which, as I commented on last month, is not really yet showing the full effects of the NHS improvement-led interventions which we discussed in order to bring the overspends in the provider sector down. And in that context, clearly the system is going to have to pull out all the stops as we head into the year end to achieve the required overall financial balance by the end of the year. We have already, as it were, put 400 million of underspend into that position. We'll continue to look for further opportunities to make a positive contribution to that challenge, and I'll be able to report more on that when we get to the March meeting. So that's really all I wanted to say on in-year finance. As I said, there's nothing much that I've just said that I didn't tell you last month in the report. Maybe I'll pause at that point just in case there are any questions on that before I come to the surprise third act of this particular play.
I think I'd just reiterate your comment about the fact that there is a surplus this year is not should not be seen as being any indication that that this is about sort of significant sort of underspends. It's about the way in which a number of the provisioning and other things are worked through, and also that next year that you know, there are a number of the things that have worked this year will not work next year, and therefore we need to be ready and thinking about that, as I know you are now.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments? Nope. Thank you, Paul. Item 3.
So item 3 is just having told you this time what I told you last time, I'm going to tell you this time what I'm going to tell you next time.
You
but
were
not on
Mystic Meg earlier today,
but,
so continue your record.
Yes, I'm not sure I like that description, but anyway, let's carry on. So this is really looking forward into 16-17. I haven't got a report on 16-17 planning to bring to this particular meeting because it's a little early. We've had a submission from CCGs and NHS Improvement with whom we're working hand in hand, as it were, on this particular issue. Similarly, from the providers, we've got a further submission in a couple of weeks' time. So I do anticipate when we meet together in March, I'll be able to give you a more substantive update. It's worth saying the big focus that we've got at the moment is getting activity right in 16-17. It's clearly the thing that underpins the integrity of the forecasting and has frankly been a problem for the NHS in previous years of really getting a firm grip at this stage on activity. We've provided an awful lot more support to the system this year in order to get proper trend analysis into the system, a proper understanding of what drives, in particular, the waiting time metrics and how to plan the activity for that. We've worked closely with CCGs to make sure that process is working well. We clearly have more work to do on that, and I hope the March submissions will take us in that direction. Big challenge, of course, always to make sure that the plans of commissioners are directly related to the plans of providers, and again the significant deepening of the partnership with NHS Improvement is leading to a good process of triangulation. The other feature that we're working closely with NHSI on is the Sustainability and Transformation Fund, which is the way in which the funding for the structural deficit in the provider system is being deployed. in 16-17. Importantly, as you know, they've been working on control totals, etc., which we've worked on with them, and that's moving forward. The bit that's probably most relevant for us to work together on at the moment is the performance trajectory, which are the important second part of the conditionality around the sustainability fund. We're working very closely together to make sure that the trajectories are realistic but stretching and get us back on track with those of the performance metrics, which are not currently quite where they should be. And then, of course, the third conditionality around which we are spending a lot of time thinking at the moment and producing the plans is the longer term planning that we initiate together again in the spring. So lots of work in setting up both the 16-17 aspects of the Sustainability Fund and the Sustainability and Transformation Plans, which will be an important part of that. I can't yet clearly tell you how exactly the financial balance is going to work out in all of those things. It would be enormously surprising if the first plans came in with all of the numbers that we were expecting, but I hope when we next meet I will be able to give you, with Richard, of course, with whom we are working closely to make sure there is an umbilical link, if I can put it that way in this context, between performance and activity and finance. The process is in place, the results we'll see in March and April.
Anything, Paul? No, I think more about that subject at the next board or two, I suspect. Okay, good. Thank you very much.